Before we begin, let this be said gently. There is nothing wrong with your body. In Ayurveda, imbalance is not a mistake, it is a message. The body responds to pace, environment, rhythm, and demand. When those conditions become overwhelming, balance shifts, not because the body is failing, but because it is adapting. This audiobook is not here to label you. It is not here to diagnose or define you. It is here to restore balance by changing the conditions around you so the body can respond naturally. Over the next 5 days, we'll work with the 3 doshas as patterns of movement, intensity, and stability, not as identities, not as something to manage, but as forces that settle quickly when they are supported in the right way. Each day has one focus, one direction, one supportive condition. You don't need to remember everything. You don't need to do anything perfectly. Simply listening is enough to begin. Let's start where balance always begins, with grounding. This audiobook is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. It does not replace care from a qualified healthcare professional. Please consult your healthcare provider before making health-related changes. Day 1. Ground the body. Today is about stability. In Ayurveda, balance is not restored by effort. It is restored by creating conditions the body can trust. When those conditions disappear, the body adapts. It becomes alert. It moves quickly. Thoughts scatter. Energy feels uneven. Digestion loses rhythm. Sleep becomes lighter or less satisfying. This is not because something is wrong. It is because the body is responding to uncertainty. Ayurveda describes this pattern as vata imbalance, but you don't need to hold on to that word. What matters is the experience of feeling unanchored, physically, mentally, or emotionally. The body does not respond to being told to calm down. It responds to being held. Grounding is how that holding begins. Grounding is not stopping life, it is reducing unnecessary motion. It is slowing transitions, allowing pauses, letting the body feel where it is. When grounding is present, the nervous system softens, breath deepens without instruction, muscles release without effort. Digestion becomes steadier because the body no longer needs to adapt constantly. This is why grounding always comes first. Today, the body is invited to experience predictability, not rigid structure, just enough consistency to feel safe. Warmth plays a quiet but important role here. Warmth is one of the body's earliest signals of safety. It tells the system it does not need to brace, that resources can be released instead of guarded. You might notice that warmth, physical warmth, creates an immediate sense of ease. This is not comfort-seeking, it is physiology. Grounding also comes from pace, moving a little more slowly, doing one thing at a time, allowing the body to finish each movement before beginning the next. This is not about productivity, it is about coherence. When pace slows, signals become clearer. Hunger feels more honest. Fatigue becomes more informative. Emotions move through without lingering as long. You might notice resistance today, a feeling of restlessness, a desire to speed up or distract yourself. This is common. When the body first experiences grounding, it sometimes reveals how long it has been compensating. There is nothing to correct. If tiredness appears, let it. If emotion surfaces, allow it to pass. Grounding does not demand interpretation, it only asks for permission. As the day unfolds, notice what feels stabilizing, not what you should do, what actually allows the body to settle. Notice what feels heavy in a supportive way, what feels warming rather than stimulating, what allows breath to slow on its own. These are not small signals, they are the body remembering how to rest. By the end of today, there may not be dramatic change. That is expected. Grounding works quietly. It creates the base on which everything else rests. Nothing else needs to happen today. The body has received the message. It is safe to settle. Day 2. Cool and soften. Today is about easing intensity. In Ayurveda, when balance shifts towards heat, the body does not become weak, it becomes driven. Thoughts sharpen, emotions intensify. The system pushes forward even when it is tired. There may be irritation, frustration, or a sense of pressure to keep going. This is not a flaw. It is how the body responds when demands remain high for too long. Ayurveda describes this pattern as pitta imbalance, but again, the name is less important than the feeling. A sense of internal heat, a sharpness in reactions, a drive that does not know when to stop. The body is not asking for more discipline, it is asking for relief. Cooling in Ayurveda is not about cold, it is about softening. Softening expectations, softening pace, softening the internal push to improve, correct, or resolve everything at once. When intensity runs unchecked, the nervous system stays activated. Digestion becomes sharp or irregular. Sleep becomes lighter. The body remains in a state of effort even during rest. Cooling interrupts this pattern. Cooling tells the system it no longer needs to perform. You may notice this as a subtle release, less urgency in the chest, fewer sharp edges in thought, a feeling of space returning. This does not happen through control, it happens when pressure eases. Today's support comes from allowing moderation, allowing the body to do less without falling behind, allowing emotions to exist without analysis, allowing the pace to slow without justification. This can feel uncomfortable at first. Many people equate intensity with purpose. When intensity softens, there can be a moment of uncertainty. That uncertainty is not emptiness, it is space, and space is cooling. Cooling also comes from environment. Quieter surroundings, gentler lighting, reduced exposure to comparison, urgency, or confrontation. These conditions help the nervous system step out of constant evaluation. When evaluation stops, heat dissipates. You may notice changes in appetite today. Hunger may feel less urgent, or digestion may feel calmer, more even. These are signs that the body is no longer bracing. If emotions arise, let them pass without interpretation. Heat often holds emotion tightly. When cooling begins, release follows. This is not something to manage, simply allow. Today is not about becoming passive, it is about becoming less strained. Softening does not reduce clarity, it restores it. By the end of today, you may feel slightly less driven, slightly less reactive, or simply quieter inside. These are not losses, they are signals of balance returning. Nothing needs to be fixed. The body is learning that it does not have to burn itself to stay alive. As this day comes to a close, allow yourself to rest in gentleness. Let the sharp edges soften. Let the internal heat settle. You do not need to push to be well. You can rest here. Day 3. Awaken gentle movement. Today is about restoring flow. In Ayurveda, when balance shifts toward heaviness, the body does not stop functioning, it slows. Energy feels dense, motivation drops. The body resists change, not out of laziness, but out of protection. There may be a sense of stagnation, fogginess, or emotional flatness. This is not a lack of will, it is the body conserving energy. Ayurveda describes this pattern as kapha imbalance. Again, the name is not essential. What matters is the experience of feeling weighed down, unmoved, or slightly stuck, physically or emotionally. The body is not asking to be pushed, it is asking to be invited. Movement in this context is not exercise, it is circulation. Circulation of breath, circulation of sensation, circulation of attention. When movement disappears entirely, the body begins to hold, fluids stagnate, energy settles downward, the nervous system becomes dull rather than calm. Gentle movement reintroduces life without demand. Today's support comes from awakening motion slowly. This may show up as stretching without goals, walking without a destination, allowing the body to move simply because it wants to. The key is lightness, not intensity, not effort, just enough motion to remind the system that it is still responsive. When movement is gentle, the body does not resist it. Instead, it begins to participate. Muscles warm, breath changes. The heaviness begins to lift on its own. You may notice that mood shifts before energy does. This is common. Emotional heaviness often loosens first, followed by physical sensation. Trust that order. Kapha imbalance often carries a quiet loyalty to comfort. The body prefers what is familiar, even if it is heavy. Today is not about removing comfort, it is about refreshing it. A new sensation, a change of position, a slightly different pace. These small variations matter. If resistance appears, don't argue with it. Resistance is not an obstacle, it is information. It tells you the body wants movement to be gentle, not imposed. Let movement feel optional. Let it feel kind. Over time, gentle motion stimulates circulation without draining reserves. Energy returns without being forced. The body remembers that it can move without threat. This is important because balance is not only about calming or cooling, it is also about engagement. Engagement without pressure, activation without intensity. By the end of today, you may feel a subtle weft, or you may simply feel less stuck. Even a small shift counts. Nothing needs to be measured. The body is responding in its own way. As this day closes, allow yourself to notice any sense of lightness, physical, emotional, or mental. Allow it to be enough. Movement has returned. And with it, the reminder that balance does not come from force, but from gentle participation. You can rest here. A gentle daily guide for ongoing balance. This guide is not meant to be followed perfectly. It is meant to be returned to. Think of it as a quiet orientation, something to help you recognize what kind of support the body is asking for on any given day. You do not need to do everything. One point of support is enough. When the body feels unsettled or anxious, return to grounding. Choose warmth. Slow the pace. Reduce unnecessary movement and stimulation. Let the body feel held by predictability and rhythm. Balance often returns when the system feels safe enough to settle. When the body feels overheated or pressured, return to cooling and softening. Ease expectations. Create space. Step away from urgency and comparison. Allow intensity to release rather than be managed. Clarity often returns when pressure decreases. When the body feels heavy or stagnant, return to gentle movement. Invite circulation without forcing effort. Change position. Introduce light variation. Energy often returns when the body is invited to participate, not pushed to perform. When life interrupts balance, return to one stabilizing condition: warmth, rhythm, stillness, gentle motion. You do not need to fix everything. Returning to one point of support is enough to restore direction. How to use this guide. You don't need to analyze yourself. Simply notice what feels most relieving when you read these sections. The body will recognize what it needs. Balance is not maintained through control. It is restored through early, gentle response. A final reminder: you are not meant to live in perfect balance. You are meant to return to balance more easily. This guide is here to shorten the distance between strain and support. Nothing more is required. You can come back to these words whenever the body asks, and you can rest knowing that listening itself is already part of the reset. As this first part comes to a close, there is nothing more you need to do right now. The body has already begun to recognize what feels supportive. Simply listening has created conditions for balance to return. This audiobook continues in part 2, where we'll gently explore how to recognize your dominant patterns, respond to imbalance without labeling or control, and carry this sense of steadiness into everyday life. You can return to it whenever it feels right. For now, allow everything you've heard to settle. Nothing needs to be remembered perfectly. Nothing needs to be rushed. You can rest here.